Let's review a little bit about objects and object types because we are going to use them a lot as we go on and talk about advanced pipeline techniques. So, objects. First of all, most PowerShell commands produce an object as output. So, for example, getService produces an object. That object is a collection of services. And you may remember that it's bigger than this. Objects are bigger than they appear because this object only has 3 properties in it. And let's go back up to the top. It's got the status property, the name property, and display name property. But remember, there are about 14 properties that the service object type has, and those are also produced, although they don't always show on the screen. Objects have types. Now, we have said this before, and we've talked about how to see that type. And we're going to use the getMember command to see the object type. So if I do a getService and I pipe that to getMember, or we can just use the GM, which is the alias for getMember, we can see the object type. And this up here where it says type name is the object type. Now remember, we usually just call it a service controller, the last part here. We don't usually say the whole thing, but technically the whole thing is the object type. Now here's kind of a surprise and something kind of new. Almost all commands require an object as input. But wait a minute, if I don't have a command in front of it to produce that object, then where does it get the input from? Well, it gets its input from parameters. So one thing that parameters do is call input for a commandlet. So for example, what do I have here? Get child item. Well, the get child item has to know child item of what? If you're going to get a child item, which means the contents of a folder or the contents of a drive, well, what folder? What drive? And so there is a default parameter that is being added by PowerShell. In this case, the path parameter, which is being added. Now, you can change it by typing path parameter and then adding a different path. But if you don't add it, it's just looking at the current path right here, and it's taking that current path as the default path and saying, well, this is the object that you're inputting to that command. So parameters are the way that we get objects into commands.